The cold under the bridge. The wind howled through the dark city streets. Trash rolled like tumbleweeds, and frost covered everything in a thin layer of white. Michael pulled his jacket tighter as he crossed the edge of the old scrapyard. He had been searching for spare metal, hoping to fix the heater in his small trailer. Winter was cruel this year and he had no money left. As he passed under a broken bridge, something made him stop. Whimper. He paused. It wasn't a cat or a dog. It was too soft, too strange. Like a baby crying, but quieter. The sound came from behind a pile of cardboard and plastic. Michael slowly stepped forward. His boots crunched over glass and gravel. He pushed aside a rusted shopping cart and bent down. There, beneath layers of torn cloth, was a small bundle, shaking. He hesitated. "Hello?" he whispered. No answer. He reached out and gently pulled the top cloth back. His breath caught. It wasn't a baby. It looked like one, but her skin was a soft, glowing gray. Her eyes, large and silver, opened slowly. They shimmered like starlight. Tiny fingers gripped the blanket. She had small ridges on her forehead and faint markings along her neck, like faint tattoos. The little creature stared at him, trembling. Michael stepped back in shock, but then he saw something else, something that made his heart twist. Tears. The small child was crying silently, her cheeks wet and cold. She wasn't dangerous, she wasn't a monster, she was freezing. Michael didn't think anymore. He took off his coat, wrapped it around her gently, and lifted her into his arms. She was light. Too light. He looked around. "Is someone with you?" he called softly. "Where's your mother?" A low groan answered him. Michael froze. It came from nearby, deeper under the bridge behind some concrete slabs. He placed the child inside his coat, cradling her with one hand, and walked toward the sound. He pushed aside an old mattress and saw her, an alien woman. She was lying on her side, barely conscious. Her skin was the same glowing gray, but darker. Blood trickled from her leg. Her clothes were torn and dirty. One of her arms was wrapped around her stomach protectively. Michael bent down, alarmed. Hey, can you hear me?" Her eyes fluttered open. She looked at him, then at the child in his arms. Her lips trembled. "Please, don't let them." "Take her." Michael's heart pounded. "Who? Who's coming?" The woman coughed. They hunt us. She's rare. Too rare." He tried to lift her, but she gasped in pain. Her leg was wounded badly. Probably broken. "I can't leave you here," Michael said. "I have a place nearby. Just a trailer, but it's warm. I'll take you both." The woman's eyes softened. She looked at her daughter, now sleeping in his arms, then nodded weakly. Michael wrapped her in another layer of cloth and carefully helped her up. She bit her lip to keep from crying out. It took him 20 minutes to reach his small trailer near the scrapyard. He laid the child on the couch and placed the alien woman on a mattress on the floor. He started the generator, bringing life to a small heater. The warm air spread slowly, but it was enough. He brought water, wrapped them in blankets, and sat beside the heater, watching them. The child slept peacefully now, curled up with her thumb in her mouth. The alien woman was still awake, her breathing rough. Michael spoke softly. "I'm Michael. I don't know who you are or why you were under that bridge, but I'm not going to let anyone hurt you." The woman whispered. "My name is Shira." Michael nodded. "Shira, you're safe now." Her eyes started to close. But before sleep took her, she said something else. Words that filled the room with cold fear. "They'll come for her. You don't know what she is." Then she passed out. Michael sat in silence, the heater humming behind him. He looked at the little girl again, still holding tight to his coat. He had only gone out looking for scrap. Now, he had a strange child sleeping in his home, a wounded alien mother, and the promise of danger. Danger he didn't understand yet. But one thing was clear. That small, shivering bundle had just changed his life forever. Morning broke slowly over the junkyard. Fog rolled across twisted metal and broken wires. Inside the small trailer, Michael sat on a wooden crate beside the heater, staring at the two figures he had rescued. The little alien girl was still asleep, curled up in his coat like a kitten. The mother, Shira, was breathing, but her skin looked pale. Too pale. He rubbed his face. He hadn't slept. His mind kept replaying her last words. They'll come for her. You don't know what she is. Michael didn't understand. She was just a child, helpless, cold, afraid. What could she be that someone would want to harm? Her? Suddenly, Shira stirred. Her eyes opened slowly. She tried to sit up but winced, her hand pressing against her side. Michael rushed over. Easy, he said gently. You're hurt. Shira looked around in confusion before her gaze landed on her daughter. Relief crossed her face. She's safe. Michael nodded. Yeah, she slept through the night. Shira reached out and gently touched her child's hair. Then she looked up at Michael, her voice soft but serious. Thank you. You didn't have to save us. I couldn't just leave you two there, he said, kneeling beside her. But now I need to know. Who's coming? Who is after your daughter? Shira's eyes flickered. You found her alone, didn't you? Hiding under the bridge? Michael nodded. Yes, she was shivering. Wrapped in garbage. Honestly, I thought she was dying. She nearly was, Shira whispered. She is not like other children. She's important. Michael leaned closer. What do you mean? Shira took a shaky breath. She is what they call a threadborn, born during the pulse storms. Children like her have rare DNA, something humans and even most aliens don't carry anymore. Her blood can heal. It can power machines. It can extend life, Michael. Blinked, shocked. Wait, are you saying she's some kind of miracle? Shira nodded slowly. To some, she's a gift. But to others, she's a product, a resource, something to sell. They've been tracking me ever since she was born. Michael felt his gut tighten. Who are they? Collectors? Bounty traders? Slavers, she said with disgust. They don't care that she's a child. They only see value. I ran from my colony, hid on this planet thinking I could keep her safe. She coughed hard, pain flashing across her face. Michael grabbed a blanket and tucked it around her shoulders. You don't need to say more. I get it now. Shira shook her head. No, you don't. You're a human, Michael. You don't understand how much danger she's in. Your kind, your world, is not part of the trade networks yet. But once they find out you're helping me, helping her... She paused. They'll come for you too. He sat back on his heels, letting the words sink in. I've lived in this junkyard for years, he finally said. Alone, no family, no purpose. I fix what's broken. That's all I've ever done. He looked at the child sleeping. But last night when I found her, something changed. She needed me and I didn't feel empty anymore. Shira looked at him quietly as if trying to read his soul. Then you must make a choice, she said. You can still leave us. No one will blame you. Michael chuckled dryly. It's a little late for that, don't you think? Shira gave a weak smile. You're a strange man, Michael. He stood up, pulling on a pair of gloves. Yeah, well, I've been called worse. You stay here, rest. I need to check the junkyard perimeter. If they're coming, I want to be ready. As he stepped outside, icy wind slapped his face. The sun barely pierced the gray clouds. He walked to the far side of the yard, passing old hover cars, broken loaders, and rusting satellite dishes. He reached the watch post he had built months ago, a metal tower of scrap with a pair of binoculars and a solar battery. Michael climbed it slowly and scanned the horizon. Then he saw it, a glimmer in the sky, a shape too smooth, too fast. Not a bird, not a ship from Earth. His heart pounded. They were already looking. He climbed down quickly and jogged back to the trailer. Shira was sitting up now, holding her daughter in her lap. The child blinked sleepily but smiled when she saw Michael. "She called you something," Shira said. Michael raised an eyebrow. "What?" "She said Papa in our tongue. She thinks you're her father." Michael felt something heavy and warm settle in his chest. Maybe he could be. He looked at Shira. "We don't have much time." "I know. She's not just your daughter anymore," he said. "She's ours, and I'll protect her, no matter what." Shira didn't reply with words, but the tears in her eyes were answer enough. Michael worked all morning. His gloves were torn, his fingers cold, but he didn't stop. Behind the old wrecks, in a forgotten corner of the junkyard, he cleared space near a half-buried storage container. The metal walls were thick, reinforced from an old war transport unit. Perfect for hiding. He welded loose plates across the roof, used thermal blankets to mask heat signatures, and lined the walls with soundproof foam he had salvaged long ago. Anyone flying overhead would just see more junk. But inside, it would be warm, quiet, safe. He had lived alone for years. Now every corner of his land had to be checked, every movement hidden, not for himself, but for them. For Shira. For the child. When he returned to the trailer, Shira was sitting by the heater with her daughter in her lap. The girl's cheeks had color again. Her silver eyes lit up when she saw Michael, and she reached out with a sleepy smile. "She likes you," Shira said softly. Michael sat on the floor beside them, brushing dirt from his coat. "I've built a safe room," he said, "buried in scrap. No drones will see it." Shira nodded, though her body still trembled from weakness. "We can't hide forever." "I know," he said, "but maybe long enough." The girl crawled over to Michael and curled into his lap. He gently held her. "She needs a name," he said. "She has one," Shira replied. "In my language, we call her Nira. It means light that returns." Michael repeated the name, slowly, feeling it on his tongue. "Nira. That's beautiful." "She was born in the middle of a power outage," Shira said. "Everyone thought she wouldn't survive, but the moment she cried, the lights came back, all over the ship." Michael looked down at the small girl in his arms. "She's special, I can feel it." "Yes, and that's why they want her." He sighed and stood up. "Let me show you the hideout. You'll be safer there than here." Gently, he lifted Shira and carried her through the narrow path he had cleared between piles of scrap. Nira followed, tiny feet crunching in the dirt. When Miui, Shira saw the inside of the container. She was speechless. Michael had made a nest, blankets, old cushions, a small heater powered by solar panels, even toys made from scrap wires. He had thought of everything. Shira touched the soft floor with her fingers and whispered, This is a home." Michael shrugged. "It's not much, but no one will find you here." She looked up at him. "Why are you doing all this?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he helped her sit and covered her with a blanket. Then he crouched beside her. "Because I know what it's like to be forgotten," he said. "Left behind. When my wife died, I lost everything. Family, purpose, even my will to live. Then I found Nira. I thought she was just a helpless kid, but now..." He looked over at the little girl, now giggling as she poked an old toy. "She gave me a reason to care again." Shira reached out and took his hand. Her grip was weak, but it held something stronger. Trust. Then we're not alone anymore. That night, Michael set up an alarm system. Simple tripwires, cans, and small solar-powered lights. He installed a thermal shield over the main entrance. The junkyard might look like a pile of trash, but to him, it was a fortress now. Inside the hidden shelter, Nira slept curled between her mother and Michael. Her small body radiated a faint warmth. Shira, though still weak, looked more peaceful than before, but Michael couldn't sleep. He sat just outside the container, scanning the sky through old binoculars. The stars shimmered. And then he saw it. Again. A light. Not from any Earth plane. It hovered too still, too silent. Then it blinked twice and vanished. He cursed under his breath. They were scanning. The next morning, he built a decoy camp on the opposite side of the junkyard. Old clothes, fake tracks, burned wood, even a dummy, wrapped in cloth. He had to confuse them, delay them. When he returned, Neera jumped into his arms. "I missed you, Papa," she said in a soft, clear voice. Michael froze. Shira smiled. She doesn't speak often, only when she feels safe. He hugged the child tightly. "You're safe now." But deep in his heart, he knew it wouldn't last forever. They were coming, and when they did, he would be ready. The morning sky was too quiet. Michael stood on top of his scrap tower with binoculars pressed to his eyes. His hands were tense. For 3 days, he had spotted strange flashes in the clouds, silent movement, ships that didn't belong. And now, the birds were gone. Not a single one circled the sky. That always meant something was coming. He climbed down fast and ran back toward the hidden shelter. His boots crushed wires and old panels as he moved quickly through the metal maze. Shira was outside, sitting on a crate in the weak sunlight. Neera played beside her, stacking round engine caps like blocks. Michael knelt down and spoke quietly. "I saw them again. They're close." Shira's eyes narrowed. "What kind of ship?" "Black. Smooth. No markings." It hovered near the east ridge for less than 5 seconds, then vanished. Shira went pale. "That's a collector ship." Michael didn't need to ask how she knew. He could see the fear on her face. Her fingers trembled as she grabbed her daughter's hand and pulled her close. "If they're here, we don't have much time." Michael stood. "Then we make our stand now." He had prepared for this. Every corner of the junkyard had been turned into a trap. The old loader had a plasma battery wired to explode. The rusted cargo ship's wings had blades rigged to spin. Dozens of junk piles were booby-trapped, with firecrackers, steel cables, and pressure mines. As night fell, he carried Shira and Neera to a deeper chamber underground. It was narrow and dark, but warm. "Stay here," he whispered. "No matter what you hear, don't come out." Shira tried to speak, but he stopped her. "I promised to protect her. I'm keeping that promise." Then he sealed the hatch and stepped into the night. The junkyard looked like a graveyard of machines. Cold, silent, ready. Hours passed. Then he heard it, a low hum in the sky. The black ship descended like a shadow, its lights dim and flickering blue. It hovered just above. The scrapyard then slowly landed near the outer fence. Its engines hissed as steam vented from the sides. The hatch opened. Out stepped 3 figures. All wore dark armor, thin and high-tech, with helmets that reflected no light. Their movements were calm, too calm. One scanned the ground with a device. Another held a long weapon that pulsed with red energy. Michael stayed low behind a broken hover truck, breathing slowly. He held a remote detonator in his left hand and a pipe gun in his right. Crude, but deadly if close enough. "They're here," one of the bounty hunters said through a speakered voice. "Heat signatures match. The child is within this zone." "Orders are clear," another replied. "Eliminate the adult. Secure the target alive." Michael's jaw clenched. He pressed the button. The far right corner of the junkyard exploded. A wall of flame shot up, sending metal chunks and smoke into the air. The hunters turned instantly, weapons raised. Michael used the distraction to move. He ducked between towers of scrap, crawled beneath old tires, and crept up behind the one with the scanner. At just the right moment, he jumped up, swinging the pipe hard into the side of the hunter's helmet. Crack. The bounty hunter dropped. The other 2 turned and fired, but Michael dove behind a heap of batteries. One blast hit a panel behind him and melted it instantly. He gritted his teeth. "Not fair," he muttered. "I don't even have armor." He pressed another button. This time the cargo ship blades roared to life. The spinning steel tore through one hunter's leg, sending sparks and black oil flying. He screamed and collapsed. Only one remained. The last bounty hunter wasn't rushing anymore. He moved slow, methodical, scanning every corner. Michael ran. The hunter followed. Michael led him to the loader, ducking behind the driver's cabin. The hunter raised his weapon and aimed, but Michael had already activated the final trigger. Boom! The loader exploded in a bright white flash, throwing dust and fire across the yard. The shockwave hit Michael too, knocking him off his feet. He hit the ground hard, ears ringing. For a moment, everything was silent. Then, footsteps. One. The last hunter was still alive. Michael crawled backward, bloody and gasping. He had nothing left. The hunter raised his weapon, and then a soft voice shouted, "No, Nira!" The hunter turned just as a glowing blue light burst from behind a pile of crates. Shira stood there, eyes shining like stars. Her skin glowed, her body trembling with energy. "I won't let you take her," she said. She raised her hand, and a wave of light struck the hunter full force, blasting him off his feet. He hit the ground, armor cracking. This time, he didn't get up. Shira dropped to her knees, breathing heavily. Michael crawled to her side. That was impossible. Shira looked at him weakly. "She gave me strength." Inira ran to them, wrapping her arms around them both. "Papa, Mama." Michael held them tight. Around them, the yard burned softly, metal glowing red in the night. He had done it, but it was just the beginning. The junkyard was quiet again, but not in peace. Ash floated through the air. Metal still hissed from the heat of explosions. The stars above blinked like silent witnesses. Michael stood among the wreckage with shaking hands, his back aching, his chest bruised. His traps had worked, but just barely. He had never killed before, but tonight, he had done what he had to. Inside the underground chamber, Shira lay curled on a mat, her skin pale from exhaustion. She hadn't spoken much since she used that strange light to save them. Michael didn't ask how. He only knew that she had, nearly given her life to protect her daughter. And him. Naira sat beside her mother, her small fingers brushing Shira's hair. She hadn't cried. Not once. She was quiet, calm, watching everything with those glowing silver eyes. Michael knelt beside them. "Shira," he said softly. "We can't stay here." Shira opened her eyes slowly. "I know," she whispered. "They'll send more," he said. "Next time they'll come with bigger guns, bigger ships, and I don't think this junkyard can take another hit." She looked at him, tired but serious. "Where would we go?" Michael pulled a folded map from his pocket. It was old, torn, but still useful. "There's an old mining route that runs under the southern mountains. Abandoned tunnels, dangerous terrain. But if we take it, we can reach the old port at Nova Ridge." Shira frowned. "That port's been dead for decades." "Not completely," Michael said. "There's a smuggler who owes me a favor. Used to bring me spare tech before Earth banned alien trades. If he's still alive, maybe, just maybe, he can get you off this planet." Shira looked down at Inira. "She can't keep running forever." Michael nodded. "But if we make it to Nova Ridge, she won't have to." Shira took a deep breath. "Then we move tonight." Michael worked fast. He packed what little food they had, dried protein bars, bottled water, and a few medical patches. He loaded tools, batteries, and wrapped everything in heat-resistant blankets to avoid detection. He fitted Shira with a simple brace made from scrap metal to help her walk. She didn't complain. She just looked at her daughter and kept going. As the sun dipped below the junk hills, Michael pushed open the hidden hatch. Cold night air spilled inside. He held out a hand to Shira. "Ready?" he asked. She nodded and took his hand. They moved, like shadows, slipping through broken fences and burned metal. Michael carried Naira on his back, wrapped tightly in his old coat. Shira limped beside him, her steps slow but steady. Behind them, the junkyard faded into the dark. Ahead, mountains loomed. The first few hours were quiet. Then came the growl. Michael froze. From a ridge above them, glowing red eyes appeared, 6 of them. Scrap hounds, robotic beasts left behind from the war, now scavengers with broken logic cores. They smelled heat, movement, flesh. Michael turned to Shira. "Run!" She didn't argue. They dashed through broken rocks and old mining rails. The hounds followed, their metal legs pounding the ground. Sparks flew from their jaws. One leapt. Michael ducked and fired a flare gun straight into its face. The hound exploded in a burst of light and flame. "Down here," he shouted, spotting a narrow tunnel opening. They slid down into the darkness, metal grinding against stone as they crawled inside. The hound skidded at the entrance, too large to follow. Inside, the air was damp and heavy. The tunnel reeked of rust and mold. But they were alive. For now, they moved for hours. Every step deeper into the mountain, every breath harder to take. Shira stumbled twice. Naira began to cry softly, but Michael didn't stop. He whispered to her over his shoulder, "Just a little more, kiddo. You're doing great." Finally, they reached a steel door covered in moss. Michael brushed it aside and entered a wide cave. Inside was a long-forgotten mining station, broken lights, dead terminals. But in the far corner, a blinking signal light. The smuggler had been here. Michael rushed to the console, entered a code, and waited. The radio crackled. A voice spoke. "Haven't heard from you in years, Mike. Thought you were dead." "I might be soon," Michael replied. "I need a ship, one that can fly low and leave quietly." A pause. Then, "Meet me at Ridge 6 in 12 hours. Bring credits." "Don't have credits," another pause. "You better have something more valuable." Michael looked over at Shira, then at Anira. "I do." That night they slept behind locked doors, wrapped in silence. Michael lay beside the alien child, her tiny hand gripping his shirt. Shira looked at him from across the dark. "You're risking your life for us," she whispered. Michael stared at the ceiling. "I lost everything once. I won't lose it again." Shira didn't reply, but in that heavy silence, something warm passed between them. Not fear, not guilt. Hope. The sun had not yet risen when Michael tightened the straps on his pack and stepped out of the broken mining shelter. His boots crunched against the dry earth of Scrap Valley, a wide, forgotten basin once used to dump war machines and burnt-out cargo crafts. Mountains ringed the valley like jagged teeth, and somewhere among the rusted skeletons Ridge 6 waited. 12 hours. That's what the smuggler had promised. But Michael felt it deep in his chest. They wouldn't have that long. Shira walked beside him slowly, still weak but upright, her leg wrapped tightly in bandages and metal bracing. She held Naira's hand, her grip firm and protective. The child wore Michael's jacket like a blanket, her silver eyes scanning every shadow with quiet fear. They moved fast, keeping low between twisted machines and broken ship hulls. Michael knew this terrain better than anyone. It was his old, scavenging route, once worthless, now a battlefield. As they crossed the valley floor, Michael paused, his hand rising, a low hum. He dropped to one knee, signaling Shira and Nira to stay down. He peered through a cracked lens from his toolkit, adjusting the focus. A black dot moved across the sky. Sleek. Silent. Another ship. "They're here," Michael whispered. Shira's face tightened. "We're exposed." "No," Michael said, pointing. "There's a wreck up ahead, an old Earth freighter. We can hide inside." They ran. The freighter was half buried in the dirt, its sides scorched from an old crash. Michael pulled open a rusted hatch and helped them inside. The interior was cold and smelled of burnt plastic, but it would do. They waited. The ship passed, overhead slowly, scanning. A beam of red light swept across the valley. It stopped, hovered, then descended. Michael clenched his jaw. "They've locked on." A pulse shook the air as the ship landed with a hiss. The rear doors opened and armored boots stepped onto the ground. 4 bounty hunters, sleeker armor, smarter weapons. This wasn't a scout team, this was extraction. Michael checked the battery on his old blaster. 1 shot, maybe 2. He looked at Shira, who was already pulling Nira behind cover. Her eyes met his. "I'll go," she said. "I'll lead them away." "No," Michael said firmly. "They want the child, and they know we're close. We stay together." He turned and scanned the broken corridor. Then he remembered the freighter's core room still had emergency batteries, small, unstable, but explosive. He had used one once to power a heater. Now it could be their only chance. "Stay here," he told them. He slipped through the side shaft, crawling under collapsed beams and rusted pipes. In the engine chamber he found it, the emergency cell still glowing faintly. He rewired it, fast and sloppy. No time for precision. He attached a short-range detonator and bolted back to the hatch. Outside, the hunters had spread out. One of them called out, "Return the thread-born child. You will not be harmed." Michael stepped into view. He raised his blaster. "Come and take her, metalhead." The nearest hunter raised a plasma rifle and fired. Michael dove left, the beam grazing his leg. He rolled behind a broken wing, heart pounding. The pain burned, but he didn't stop. He clicked the remote. Boom! The engine room exploded, shaking the freighter violently. Fire and debris shot upward. One bounty hunter was thrown into the air, crashing into the dirt. Another was pinned under a collapsing beam. Michael limped to his feet. His blaster was gone, melted, but he had no time for fear. Then he saw him, the lead bounty hunter, taller than the rest, unmarked black armor. A glowing blade extended from his wrist. He moved fast, too fast. Michael turned to run, but the hunter reached him first. The blade slashed across Michael's shoulder, dropping him to the ground. Blood stained the dirt. Michael gasped, struggling to rise, but the hunter grabbed him by the collar and lifted him. "You are not her father," the hunter said coldly. "You are nothing." Then, zap. A blue light hit the hunter square in the back. Shira stood behind him, her hand glowing. "Don't touch him," she said. The hunter turned, furious. He charged, but before he reached her, Nira stepped into the open, hands raised, eyes glowing with blinding white light. "No more," she said softly. A pulse burst from her body. Not fire, not plasma. Light. Pure, living light. It knocked the hunter flat. His armor cracked, sparks flying. His body seized, then went still. Silence. Shira collapsed to her knees. Nira fell into Michael's arms. A crackling sound echoed across the valley. A ship, a different one. Michael looked up. A rusty but familiar cruiser lowered over the ridge. The smuggler. He had come. Michael waved one hand weakly. The smuggler's voice came through a speaker. "Get in, now." Michael carried Nira aboard. Shira followed, limping but alive. As the ship rose into the sky, Scrap Valley faded beneath them, broken, burning, and left behind. For the first time, Michael didn't feel trapped. He felt free. The smuggler's ship broke through the cloud cover, slicing into open space. Stars stretched in every direction like scattered diamonds. Inside the dim cargo bay, silence hung thick in the recycled air. Only the soft hum of engines reminded them they were moving, escaping. But the weight of everything they had left behind pressed heavy on Michael's shoulders. He sat on a worn bench, holding Nira gently against his chest. She was asleep, her head tucked under his chin, her small hands gripping his jacket like it was the only thing she trusted. Her skin glowed faintly in the darkness, not from fear or power, but peace. Shira lay on a cot nearby, a fresh bandage across her side, her breathing shallow but steady. Her eyes remained open, watching the stars through the scratched viewport. Her body was weak, but her spirit, it was harder now. Sharper. She had fought. She had bled. She had survived. The smuggler, a rough older man named Kern, piloted the ship from the cockpit above. He hadn't said much after picking them up, just nodded at Michael and muttered, "You look worse than a warbot after a thunderstorm." Michael hadn't laughed, but he appreciated the attempt. Hours passed. Then Kern's voice came through the intercom. "We're clear of the system. I can drop you anywhere. Free world, edge colonies, or I've got a contact in the neutral belt. High-tech med station." Quiet. Michael looked at Shira. She nodded slightly. He pressed the button. "Take us to the med station." "Understood." Michael leaned back against the wall. The metal was cold, but the little girl in his arms kept him warm. He didn't dare move. Shira's voice broke the silence. Soft. Careful. "She saved us," she said. "She's still just a child, but inside her is something ancient. Something powerful. She doesn't understand it yet, but one day she will." Michael nodded, eyes still on Nira. "And until that day comes, I'll be here." Shira's gaze rested on him for a long moment. "You know," she said, "on my world, children don't bond easily with strangers. It takes months, sometimes years." Michael glanced at her. "But not with me." She shook her head gently. "No. The first night. She chose you." He swallowed hard. "I didn't do anything special." "You wrapped her in warmth when the world left her in the cold," Shira whispered. "That's more than most ever do." Michael looked down at Naira, remembering the tiny, trembling bundle under the bridge. She had almost died that night, and so had he in a way. But now she breathed peacefully. She dreamed. She belonged. A small voice broke through the quiet. "Papa." Nira stirred, eyes still closed, but her lips moved again. "Papa." Michael's throat tightened. He didn't speak. She blinked and looked up at him sleepily. "Are we safe now?" He smiled, tears welling up in the corners of his eyes. "Yeah, kiddo, we're safe." She reached up and touched his cheek. "Mama said you won't leave." "I'm not going anywhere," he whispered. She leaned into him again, content. Shira turned her head toward him, her voice quieter now, almost a breath. "There is no blood tie between you two. No law says you have to stay." Michael looked at her sharply. "Do you want me to leave?" She shook her head slowly. "Then stop talking like that." He took a breath and looked out the window. "I lost my family once. My wife. Our baby didn't make it. I shut myself away after that. Dug a hole and lived in it. Thought I didn't deserve anything else." He looked back at the girl in his arms. "But now I know. I was just waiting. Waiting for her." Shira's voice cracked just slightly. "She will need a guide. Someone to keep her balanced. Someone who can love her without fearing what she is." Michael nodded. "Then I'm the right man." A quiet tear slid down Shira's cheek. "Then you are more than a man, Michael. You're her father." He nodded, his voice low. "And she's my daughter." The ship beeped overhead. Kern's voice broke the silence. "We're arriving at the med station in 10. Get ready to disembark." Michael stood slowly, still holding Naira. She rested her head on his shoulder, calm and safe. Shira rose carefully with his help, leaning on him for balance. As the ship touched down and the bay doors opened, bright white lights poured inside. The med team rushed forward, kind hands and soft voices guiding them in. Michael looked back once at the dark cargo bay. So much had happened there. So much pain. So much fight. So much love. But the future waited now, and he was no longer just a man fixing broken things. He was a father, to a girl who wasn't even from his world, but who had become his whole world.